let's go ahead and start. We only have 4 members here, so we don't have a quorum at this moment. We can't take any official action, so we can't actually start with the approval of minutes. But I can let people know if you weren't part of the meeting with the library, and the Historic District Commission, the parking that was approved by the Historic District Commission against our strong advice not to have only on-street parking, that was what they approved. And given that it barely meets the ADA, we don't have any more teeth to sort of force them. And, you know, this is a little off the record, but I felt personally quite disappointed that they weren't, you know, sort of taking in mind our comments and the sense that a lot of people who have disabilities are not going to feel comfortable parking on the street, and then they're not going to use the library after they spend millions of dollars on an addition and making it very accessible. So, but we fought that fight as long as we could, and thank you to all of you for your work and effort on that. So Bob, we have town accommodations for deaf and hard of hearing people on the agenda for tonight. I don't see Kate on here yet. So do you want to talk about this?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Actually, I'm anticipating that other members of, our group will be showing up, but their understanding was that, would be on the agenda a little bit later.
Okay.
Bob, I'm here with you.
Who was there?
Ed LeClaire.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I see Bob White.
Okay, I can't see everybody at the moment. So,
okay.
Yeah, so if you want to move it out of order, that's...
Sure, we can move it down. And we're really in unofficial meeting mode anyway. So I can update you on the parking at 136 Sudbury Road. I wrote a letter explaining to them that they would need to add a dedicated handicap parking space. And that letter is right now in Jennifer's hands just to make sure I worded it correctly. And I think she was going to draw a little sketch about what she thought the parking would be. I think it's an easy fix for them. It's really a matter of a little bit of paint and a sign. So it's pretty inexpensive, and they've got the space right there. So it should be something they can remedy quite easily. So hoping Kate might join us. Let's go on. Mary Beth, you sent me an email today with something you wanted to discuss. So let's move to miscellaneous. You're muted, Mary Beth.
Hello, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What I wanted to discuss is that there is a group of people who have come together in opposition to the Christmas, let me call it holiday light show that was set up at the former Fernald School. It's some mile-long light show that was arranged by the Lions Club in collaboration or with the town of Waltham. The group feels that this is just like a really ridiculous, disrespectful use of that site, given the history of disabled people having been incarcerated and abused and neglected for so many years at that site. The history of it also is that the site was donated to the town of Waltham with the understanding that Waltham would at some point create a museum which honors the memory of the abuse and injustices that were done to disabled people. There's been no progress on creating any kind of a museum or memorial to that end. And so then for the town to go ahead and approve it as a place where they're, as a holiday celebration with Santa Claus and twinkly lights and, the whole 9 yards, has really made people quite upset. So the organization has, sent around, there's been a couple of demonstrations where groups of disabled people, or people with disabilities, rather, let me say, have, stood outside with signs explaining why they're in opposition to it. They're asking people to write a letter to the mayor of Waltham expressing your disapproval of this. And so I was wondering, I don't think we can vote on this. Now we're moving into something that we would need a quorum on, I guess. But I thought maybe as a commission, we would like to write a letter to that effect.
So,
Jane?
yeah, we don't have a quorum, so you're right, we're not able to vote on it. But we could write a letter and members could individually sign on as just individual people. For what it's worth, I can sign on for Minuteman Arc, which might carry some amount of, weight.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. This is Meryl. I couldn't log on to the Zoom picture, so I called by phone.
Oh, great.
So I am here. I don't know if that gives you a quorum or not.
It absolutely does. You're number 5. Now we have a quorum.
Oh, good. I am here. I just couldn't see anybody. I'm sorry. I don't know why I just can't connect to Zoom, but I was listening to to Mary Beth's comment, and I wondered if the Mass Disability Commission has been made aware of this, and I would think that they would take some action. And also, I assume that Waltham doesn't have a disability commission, and to really, do something directly in the city of Waltham.
Well,
do you have any information?
I think that the Mass Commission probably does know about it. There are some pretty heavy hitters, Charlie Carr being one of them,
Right.
that is part of this action. So I'd be very surprised if they didn't know about it. I also do think that Waltham has a disability commission. I think that this is an area where there is no laws against it. It's just acting disrespectfully. It's not, they're not breaking any laws. There aren't any ADA codes that say you can't act this way. It's just a very inconsiderate gesture on their part, and very sort of insulting gesture. And so this is the deal, that's kind of, nobody can do anything officially.
Right. But I would think that, the coming from the state would even carry more weight. I mean, a letter saying how insensitive this display is, coming from the Commission on Disability from the state, would even weigh in even more heavily.
Yeah, that I can't speak to. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be happy to give Jeff at MOD a call and see if they're, if they're taking a stand on this.
Right.
And
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I can also bring it up Monday, we have a meeting of the execs of all of the ARCs in Massachusetts. I can bring it up to that group as well.
Boy, that would be really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
I know, for my organization, our self-advocates are not happy about this.
No, yeah.
Oh, I can imagine. What an awful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we're a small fish in a big pond, and certainly individuals can write letters, but I'm trying to think of a larger way for social action.
sure. And that's a good idea. We do have a quorum now, so if somebody wants to make a motion that we write a letter and send it, we can vote on that.
I would like to move that we send a letter to the city of Waltham expressing our concern about their lack of sensitivity to this issue.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. I'm going to suggest that we also CC the Lions Club on it.
Good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, great. Yeah.
yeah. I'm guessing they probably just thought, great, it's a big space. Wonderful.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
didn't really think much more about it. So, Mary Beth, how would you feel about trying to write the letter?
That's fine. I'll take that on.
Okay, so we just need a vote, and Karen, would you mind calling people? Because we have to do a roll call vote.
These are the name, by the way. I'll show you the-
What?
Okay, all in
name.
favor of?
You have to call each person by
Oh,
name.
yes.
Yeah.
Mary Beth, are you in agreement?
Yes.
Yes. Jean,
Yes,
Bonnie,
Can I abstain?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to abstain.
okay,
and Meryl?
Yes.
Yes. I will say yes. Okay.
okay.
All right.
Okay. So Mary Beth, if you'll write that and share it with the group,
Sure.
you can do that. We can't go back and forth and comment on it, but you can share, here's what's going.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's go back up to the top of our agenda, and we can approve the minutes. Karen sent out the minutes of our November 5th meeting. Are there any changes, additions, anything?
I move to accept them.
Okay. Is there a second? Mary Beth, did you? Oh, Karen, okay, good.
I heard somebody say they seconded it. That's
Okay.
fine. Okay.
All right. Karen, you want to call roll on this again?
All right. Mary Beth, are you in favor of accepting?
Yes.
Okay. Jean,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
and Meryl?
Yes.
And I see yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good, good. So, yeah, one of our major players tonight is not here. I'm not sure what happened to Kate, but we were expecting to have a discussion about the new plans for White Pond. Were any of you at the meeting on, when was that, Wednesday evening, I think it was?
I was at it for part of the time.
Okay, yeah. I attended as well.
I think somebody from the White Pond Advisory Board told me they were going to attend our meeting.
Mhm.
Somebody named
I'm-
Susan.
Andrea,
Yeah,
Oh, Andrea. Oh,
I'll
Yeah.
put- and I'm
Okay.
also here more as a private citizen, but I used to be vice president of the board that gifted it to the town.
okay. Would you like to sort of bring us up to speed?
Are you
Or
asking me?
share your thoughts? Yes, Andrea, sorry.
Hi, Jane. Yes, so I was at the meeting. I thought it was a really excellent meeting.
Mhm.
In that, even since I even spoke with you, Jean, the other day, I feel like they've already adjusted plans from really listening to the community, which I know I felt just so heartened by. And I've spoken with many of my neighborhood friends, and people just really felt that that was so appreciated, that they really listened to the community. And it does seem that one of my major concerns is they originally were going to remove the handicap parking from down below on the road and move it all up top with this serpentine handicap ramp down to the beach. And I had great concerns about that because I had a severe disability for 3 years and still have some, but during those 3 years, I would never have been able to independently gone down any serpentine pathway. And even as the vice president of the board, I would have never been able to visit the beach at all. So I thought it was really important to maintain spots down below where you can drive independently, park, and get to at least enjoy what you can of the beachfront. So they did retain, it seems in the plan, 2 spots.
Mhm.
I, at the meeting, spoke up. I still think they should keep the 3 they have, because I think, I know when I was handicapped, I was turned away so many times because there was no handicap spots, not necessarily at White Pond, but throughout the Boston area. So I think maintaining what should be would be best. I don't know what they'll do with that, but that was my recommendation, is to keep 3 there. And then I know they decided that they have to do the serpentine through the woods for more universal access, not really to meet the handicapped access, but really for universal access, meaning people with strollers, wagons, maybe someone has a new knee, but they don't have a handicap placard, so they need a more gentle entrance to the beach. So they feel that that is necessary no matter what. I know as on the board, when we looked at it, we also felt like once you take up the steps, you have to meet a lot of other regulations. And the steps that are currently there just do not meet the code of having the same rise and platform. And so once you start taking them up, you have to meet other guidelines. So, and there was a proposal for a hill hiker, and at the meeting, that was, again, they really looked at it and they came up with that the expense for that, and also the destruction in the hill to be able to install it. There were many reasons they felt that that was not in the running. Both expense and destruction of the hill, and then also being able to actually have access at all times. So that kind of was said it wasn't in the running anymore. So I don't know, Carmen is here too, and I know she was
Yes.
at the meeting.
Hi. Hi,
Carmen.
Jean. Hi.
Hi.
I'm chair of the White Pond Committee, and we pushed and pushed for those spaces at the bottom, and we're just away each time that it wasn't possible because the fire department and the police department must have space there, and they're going to they want 2.5 spaces. So there's actually a third space besides those 2, but they need it. They need room for stretchers and things. We tried every way to get those down there. We thought it was the best solution because we're worried about the length of that path. I tried to get the length last night. I got estimates of 1,000 feet, 1,200, 1,400 feet. and was very interested to hear what you thought of the length of it. The grade is 20:1, which is supposed to be close to a sidewalk grade, very gentle, but it still is a long haul, you know.
Yes, so what I can tell you from, what I saw, the upper parking lot has 2 handicap spaces. The lower parking lot has 2 handicap spaces, which together meet the ADA requirement for the White Pond access. It is a very long pathway to get down, and certainly a lot of people who maybe are using wheelchairs or other mobility aids might find it daunting, to say the least. But there would be 2 spaces at the bottom. And Andrea, I hear your concern about handicap spots being full. I think sometimes handicap spots are full because people who don't have placards are parking in them, even though it's illegal. We've had that problem here in Concord. In fact, this group talked about it several meetings ago, and we made up some little cards to start to just raise awareness by telling people don't park here because you're taking up a spot for someone else who might need a disabled parking spot. But I think that I agree that it seems that the group that's working on this has tried to take in some public comment. There was, those of you who are on the committee, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when they first showed us some design work for it, I think there was a pavilion at the top and maybe some kind of composting toilet or something. So that's gone now. There's no pavilion anywhere. I sent you all the pictures and drawings from the hill hiker, and it does seem like a pretty expensive piece of equipment that really it gets someone from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top. But if they're parking at both levels, they're meeting the ADA in that way. I will reach out to Kate and let her know we really would like her to come to the next meeting. As far as I know, she was planning on being here tonight. She had the information about the meeting, so I'm not sure what happened. Yes, Karen.
I'm just curious, is there enough room at the bottom where the handicap spaces are for somebody to offload a passenger and then and then turn around and go back up? I mean, can it be used as kind of a drop off as well?
I could speak to that. They are making there is kind of a half round space, paved turnaround space.
Oh,
And
okay.
it will be easy to unload. It's also for the emergency vehicles to be able to turn around. And I believe it's also for the trucks that have to service the trailers to get down there, turn around and get out. So there is a good space down there.
Okay. Good.
Good point, Karen.
Yes, and I know originally when they were eliminating the 2 spots, I was told that you could drop off, but that doesn't meet the spirit of ADA law in terms of, just being independent. I know that if it was full, maybe you could have that, but it doesn't allow for the independence that is really the spirit of the law. So
Right. Yeah, I
that was
understand. I was just curious.
I have some questions about it.
Okay, go ahead, Mary Beth.
Oh, I wasn't sure
Hi,
if I was
Mary
unmuted. Hi, Andrea. How you doing?
good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Good to see you. I too have had the experience many times of not being able to park down below. This was before the town took it over and, but it's just, there was only 2 or 3 spots down there to begin with.
There are 3.
There were 3. I often would show up and couldn't find a place to park. And, I sometimes would get lucky and find a friend who could drive my car and take it and get valet parking from a friend. But it shouldn't really be that way. But one of the things on the Serpentine Path, whatever we want to call it, it's really hard for me to picture in my mind what the grade is for that, what 20-1 means in terms of grade. I'm a wheelchair user, so I'm wondering if somebody has something else in town you could compare it to. Like, how does it compare at the high school? That Serpentine Path at the high school that they have to get down to the athletic fields? Or how does it compare to the bike path from the Bruce Freeman Trail to Powder Mill Road, that in terms of grade, does anybody know that? I'm just trying to get an idea in my head about how difficult it would be grade wise.
Right.
And then I also have questions about, a lot of it would have to do with the surface, and what they plan to use in terms of the surface.
It's stabilized stone dust is what the last thing that I heard. And I'll be glad to check that out, about if there's another place in town to compare it with. I will get you that information.
Okay, because sometimes we like to go do site visits, but of
Mhm.
course we can't do a site visit to something that doesn't exist yet.
Right.
But maybe if we had something else, we could just give it a little try and compare it to, it might be helpful.
I also asked Kate Hodges today to have Weston and Sampson do a perspective that you're at the beach and you're looking up that hillside of what it looks like as the plans stand now, because they're quite different from the first set. And
Yeah,
I think they should provide that, Weston and Sampson.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
yes.
They did say that the grade would be not more than 5%, which is a very gentle slope. I don't know about the high school, but when we looked at the trail, I'm forgetting the name of the trail that we looked at that is not accessible but had been reviewed. Most of that was under 5%. I think there was maybe a little short area that was a bit more. At 5%, it's safe to go with no railings. If it's more than 5%, then there have to be railings.
Okay,
So,
well, that doesn't sound too bad
I
then.
think they're going to use some railings
They are.
for deterring cutting across the path
right.
and cutting across the hillside. So, but I don't think they were planning railings the entire way. So maybe that's why, because of the grade.
Mhm.
It's going to be on some of the spaces that don't have curves, but they're a little bit straighter, because they did have the experience of the Serpentine Path at Powder Mill. They had beautiful wildflowers on the hillside and people didn't stay on the path. They went down it. So now they've cut down all the wildflowers, put the fence in. Maybe they'll replace the wildflowers. But that is another concern we had, that we told them about people cutting across. They are going to have some boulders and some bits of cement wall at some places,
Mhm.
and the railings.
Excuse me. I know at the meeting, I felt that Kate, and maybe Carmen, you could back me up, but I felt that she said they needed 2.5 spots for this rescue thing. But she sounded like that there was wiggle room to have 3 handicap. To me, I felt like she sounded like, well, so I didn't feel that was absolutely definitive. And it would be interesting, because Mary Beth, it's interesting to hear that you were turned away there, because I think it might be interesting for them to do some sort of, survey with the 3 spots. How many people experience being turned away? Not you can't use last summer with COVID, and you can't,
No.
Right.
but in general, how many people experienced that? And did they feel, because that's where I feel like, ooh, the 3 would be great. And then there still is one up top for someone who has maybe a disability that allows them to navigate the path. So it made me wonder. She didn't sound definitive, so that made me just think that maybe as a commission, you might have some sort of role if you felt that that was important.
I'd like to weigh in a little bit about, if I could, I'm Catherine at 26 Hemlock Street, about the idea that 4 spots at the bottom are not possible. I would question that. There's a lot of space in the bottom. I think there's a difference between possible and wanting to open that, so to speak, can of worms to change the plans as presented. You know, I haven't been involved in this whole thing that long, but I have found that, you know, just in listening to some of the officials, that they're a little bit dug in on some things. Certainly they've been very flexible in making a lot of changes, but the serpentine path has definitely been something they're very married to. And part of the justification of that is having some of the handicapped at the top of the hill, handicap parking at the top of the hill. And, you know, I raised the question about how difficult it would be to navigate such a long, you know, hill. I have a mother who, you know, needs handicap parking and has heart issues and mobility issues. And I know she would never want to navigate that. And, you know, I just think I think it's a half a mile or more, a quarter of a mile or more, with 6.5, you know, zigzags, you know, switchbacks that are pretty hairpin turned in their design. So I kind of feel like even if they want to do, if they end up doing the handicap, I mean, the serpentine path, it seems to me that the handicap parking should be at the bottom. And I personally think it's plausible based on someone who's done a lot of, you know, work on land, and just, they would have to dig into the hill and put a retaining wall. They would have to modify the plan, but I can't believe that the amount of space a handicap parking takes is pretty small relative to this whole design, relative to this huge serpentine path. You know, so I'm just raising that question of plausibility.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I've listened to some of the meetings. I've been at, you know, not a lot of them, but a few. And I think that I just, you know, I don't really know if what you're saying is possible or not, but I just want to point out that there's a lot of complications in terms of not disturbing the, you know, natural resources in the land, and also the drainage, that's stormwater drainage, and not taking down trees and all of that. So it's kind of a complicated situation. Not to say that it can't be done, but I just want to point out that there's a lot of factors that people are trying to weigh and consider, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, I do think, this is Catherine Claremont again, I do think the serpentine path is the one huge element that is disrupting the small steep slope more than anything. I mean, I you know, admittedly do not like that design. You know, I think that if the full handicap was at the bottom, it would potentially also, which I think it would be a wise thing to consider, but I don't think people want to open this door either. But, you know, to consider either an alternate path for the concept of universal design. I mean, I believe in universal design. I have a daughter who has a disability. I've fought for universal design many times over again, but I don't think that this is the application for it, in my opinion. I also, you know, walk that slope up and down with strollers for years. I know there's some challenges to it, but I personally don't think that, you know, it's the right application for this hill. And I don't think that it's meeting the needs. It's certainly not meeting the concept of accessibility in terms of ease of access. You know, there's a whole principle of, ADA access, which is the concept of ease of access. This is not creating ease of access, in my opinion, at all, for one thing.
I would like to weigh in on this.
Please go ahead, Mary.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I have not been attending the White Pond meetings, but I regret that Jennifer's not giving some advice to us, because these switchbacks and length of this path seem to me to be perhaps not even ADA designed. I really wonder whether, you really need to have a great deal of space to have, adequate switchbacks for wheelchairs. And I think it's just going to come back to bite them when they discover that maybe their design is not at all handicapped accessible. And even the distance sounds dreadful. I think they're really not seeing the forest through the trees here. And, I can't imagine, I certainly wouldn't want to park at the top and take the switchback. It would be impossible for me. So, I can't believe that this is, I'd love to get Jennifer's advice, because it just seems like this isn't even a possibility.
I think you're right. I spoke to someone who, it was an architect, and he said that you'd be surprised how many, he's an architect specializing in ADA
right.
compliance. And he said, you'd be surprised how many people design things, who are architects and who think they're complying, and they're not complying, because that was my first take on this. This makes no sense at all. You have to look at principles of ADA. And one of the fundamental principles is ease of access. This is not meeting that principle. When you look at it from, is it the right width? Is it the right grade? Yes, but the length makes no sense at all. The switchbacks, I don't know if they have guidelines around how tight the switchbacks can be.
Oh, absolutely, there are guidelines. I know that there are guidelines. And
there are guidelines, but I'm not sure about specifically the switchbacks. But this guy said you'd be amazed how many people don't do ADA compliance, and then they end up with lawsuits. I personally think just do the 4 at the bottom, provide the appropriate access in a sensitive, accessible way. That's my view. And then if they needed a path that was a little easier for strollers, it wouldn't have to be this long serpentine path, creating all these environmental issues. That's my vote. I've looked at this design, I walked the hill, I studied it. I was like, I just can't imagine this makes any sense at all for handicapped people or for the environment. And my guess is people in strollers are going to get tired, and their children are going to be jumping those corners day in and day out, because it's just not a sensible design. It's a very steep slope in a very small area.
My recollection when we were talking with the library committee is that parking has to be, and I remember Jennifer, and I wish I could remember exactly, but we were talking about 800 feet and 1,000 feet, and what would be, doable in that situation. Now, you're talking, 5 times that length here, and I think that just right off the bat that the distance is not ADA compliant. That's just a gut feeling. I do not know the statistics, but I'd love to just throw it past Jennifer, because she knows this, right off the bat.
Well, I did read the language, and I don't have the statistics, but the language does say ease of access. And I spoke to several people, including someone in the state who works in provides recreational programming. You guys might know her. She provides recreational program. She designs recreational programs. She was at UMass, and she was in the head of that program. I don't have the name at the top of my head. Apologize for that. But she said, there's a road. She was at the end of the conversation. She says, didn't you say there was like a road to the pond? And I said, yes. And she was like, I really don't get this. There's a road to the pond. And it's sort of like saying you're going to go to Costco and people are going to put the handicapped parking in the back lot, and then have like all these ramps over the stairs to get to the front door. You know, I mean, making an analogy. No,
Yeah.
you put the parking in the front of the store where you need to go. And so making the analogy, that's what I can't get my head around, is like, there's a road to
Okay,
the base of the pond.
You guys, I would like to be able to move the agenda ahead a bit tonight. We're not going to take any action on this tonight. We don't have Kate here. We don't have the plans in front of us. So I think we'll certainly ask Kate to come to our January meeting and really kind of insist that she do that. We gave her a pass for November because she had just had knee surgery. And so we'll certainly ask her to come to January and share the actual plans with us.
Great.
I will tell you, just from my own experience, doing a serpentine pathway to get from one spot to another when the elevation is significant is not an unusual kind of situation. It's pretty typical. We have a serpentine path, not that long, but we have a serpentine path planned into the oasis that we're going to finish off in the spring here at Minuteman. And it's just a method to get people from one place to another. I think there are some other kinds of things that we could think about asking, which might be somewhere along the way, maybe a couple of points along the way, could there be a bench where someone could sit and rest? Or if they're going to build little stone walls, could the wall be nice and wide and capable of having someone sit there to rest for a few minutes? So, you know, that's another potential thing we could talk with them about. But I would like to, I'd like to move on and allow the people who are here representing individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing be able to talk a bit tonight. So unless the rest of you who are commission members want to
I just have one more
have
thing.
something more. Yeah, go ahead, Meryl.
No, she can hear me.
No,
It's
Mary-
actually Mary Beth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Oh, it might be both of us.
Okay.
I just want to say, I feel really disappointed that Kate isn't at our meeting tonight, because I feel like there's a lot of energy. Look how many people from the White Pond Committee are here, and
Right.
people are raising really good questions. And I know that if Kate were here, she could really answer a lot of questions
Exactly.
about the people who have been involved, the people that the town have paid to come up with these various plans and the justification behind them and the way each of the plan relates to the natural environment and the stormwater drainage, et cetera. And I just hope that people don't lose that we don't lose any momentum on this. So I would encourage you all to please come back to our January meeting so that we can get your input along with ours for that meeting.
Yes. Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. We would love to have you back. And Meryl, did you have?
Jean, could I add?
No.
Could I just add
No.
one other thing that Kate had said? She had also referenced the Architectural Access Board, the AAB,
Yeah.
the Massachusetts MAB.
Right.
And she had said that in talking to them, they said that everyone needs to be able to arrive the same way as everyone else with dignity. So therefore you have to have access from the top as you do from the bottom, because otherwise at the top you prevent someone from having access. So
Yes,
just so
that's true. That's true.
that's another
That is
part
true.
of why the serpentine path is there. So
Mhm.
just to bring that up, that was
Okay.
the other piece that she's working from.
And
Okay.
an architect I spoke to, they're just strict. They're not going to let any exception in that. The top to bottom access has to mirror
Mhm.
the regular
Yes.
access. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
so Meryl, you had a comment and then we're gonna move along.
I'm fine.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
comment.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me
All right.
join your meeting.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank you
coming.
for coming.
Please do come in January.
Bye,
Okay.
Andrea.
I'll look
Thank
for
you.
that.
I'm
Thank
going,
you.
because our meeting is
Bye,
in
Carmen.
a few
Okay,
minutes. Bye, Mary.
all right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
So Bob Andrews, you want to have a chance to sort of share a little bit about where your group is at?
All righty. That was very good.
Just needed to unmute. Wait a minute.
We heard you just now.
Okay. I'm here with at least two others. I'm not sure that the last member of our group is here. I got an email. That's Alan Whitney. I got a email from him a while ago indicating that he hadn't seen the Zoom invitation. So I sent it to him. I hope he may show up, but I know that Ed LeClaire and Bob White are here. So we are three people on a 4-person subgroup formed out of a support group that was, offered by the COA with me as the facilitator. There's a long range reason why we're here, and then there's a short range reason why we're here. I'll start with the short range. We subsequent to the last time we were here before the commission, we communicated with the select board, the Concord Select Board, and requested that that we be put onto an agenda for that meeting, for one of those meetings. And the purpose of that, really was to see if if the select board would formulate a policy regarding hearing accessibility. To the best of our knowledge, there is no policy currently in existence. And when we wrote a report to the town of Concord, which you all had copies of, that was one of the things that we requested, that there be an explicit policy regarding hearing accessibility that the town would then follow in its operations. So we got a response from the select board, and we were advised that we ought to talk with the Disability Commission prior to coming, if possible, and again, if possible, and if you think it's appropriate, going to the select board with some of you. We want the any policy that is adopted to be consistent, with the ADA law as it relates to hearing. And you are certainly experts on the the disability law in general, and you're a major source of advice to the town, whereas we are just people who are having difficulty with the way things are. So that's the short reason why we're here. I hope that you all got a copy of the the policy recommendations that we sent out. Could I clarify that?
Yes, I did send that to everyone.
Okay, so that's good. And I think you mentioned in your response to it, Jean, that you were going to do some checking, I believe at the state level, as to what would be most fitting and helpful here. The long range answer to why we're here is I don't want to go over it all really, but just in brief, we've been working for quite a long time now on collaborating at first with the town about what they were prepared to to do to meet some of the the concerns that we've had about not feeling that it is an accessible situation when you go to public meetings in the town of Concord. And we had some very congenial meetings with Kate Hodges and some of the people who work with her. And Kate, seems to have, really been, committed to getting some high quality, accessibility devices and systems installed in the town. However, we have asked for a number of things where we haven't had any response, and we just want to make it clear, that when we talk about full compliance with the ADA law here, we're talking about not just having equipment, even good equipment in some of the public venues. We're talking about having it in all of them, and we got information from the town, from Kate Hodge, people who work with Kate Hodges, that showed that it was they did have equipment installed in a number of places, but not by any means in all of them where public meetings are held. We also believe that hearing accessibility as defined in the law is not just a matter of having equipment. The equipment has to be useful, to the people who come to the meetings who have hearing issues. And that has not been the case, even where the equipment has existed. And I think I've talked before about going to meetings in the select board meeting room where, I've been told that, there's equipment in the closet, but then nobody in the meeting knows how to do anything with it. So we're looking for, accessibility that includes being visible, highly visible evidence that the town has the equipment, and some guidance as to how to use it, and for there being regular protocols for the use of the equipment in all of the the public meetings. That's about all I need to say. I think at this point I would like to ask if any of the other people from our group who are present have something to add. Bob White, I know, has looked at the ADA law quite closely, and that was his chapter in our report to the town. Bob, do you have anything to add?
I don't think I could add anything about ADA law that this group doesn't know much better than I, but I did just look carefully at the portion on communication as it relates to the requirements for cities and municipalities. And certainly the law has a lot to say about what Concord should supply and should make available to people with hearing loss. I would add to what you said too, the town does have assistive listening devices that may not be deployed as well as they should. However, the question is how effective even those are. The other question is that there are venues that have nothing now. But there have been many improvements in hearing aids that we wear. And the assistive listening devices should pertain to giving us the best we can for what's in our hearing aids. That means that instead of just increasing the sound volume, it should enhance the effectiveness of what's being spoken by doing away with the background noise. And most so-called assistive listening devices in use now simply make sound louder, but not more intelligible to people who have a problem deciphering meaning from sound. So that would be all I would have to add, that we would hope the town could seriously develop a policy that would work toward these ends. And thank you.
Ed Leclerc, do you have anything to add?
Ed, you have to unmute.
I'm very new at this, but the first thing I want to say is we're getting electric feedback.
So if you're not speaking, would you please mute yourself so that we can eliminate some of the background noise?
Jean, can you mute them since you're the leader of the meeting? 'Cause this
I
is phones.
probably can.
You're muted.
You know, I'm not able to do it because I think I'm actually not the host. I think the host is Jeremy Romuald.
Well, perhaps we
I'll try
Perhaps
to
we should-
start talking again and it's not happening. So
Yes,
whatever happened, thank you. I'm pleased that I sat through that first part of the meeting. I've never attended one of your meetings. And to see the kind of detail that you attend to people who have disabilities, I'm really encouraged that we have come to the right location for our concerns. My chapter of this was looking at what are the latest listening devices and what are the availability is for Concord. And not to go into an extensive tech, but there are two new types of listening devices. One is called an induction loop, in which you encircle the room that you're entering with a wire that will take the voice from the speaker directly to our hearing aids if we have a special hearing aid device application called a T-cell. It's an amazing experience, and for those people who are hard of hearing or close to deaf like I am, you can go to Symphony Hall now and hear a lecture because they have an induction loop. And literally, for the first time in my life, for the last 15 to 20 years, I could hear 98% of the words. It's an astonishing relief. The second is, that's an expensive top of the line. The second part is an FM Wi-Fi system. These are, most of what you see today are hearing aids, headphones that are basically FM. And FM is a system that sends out rays, but if you capture the vocal point of a presentation with Wi-Fi, it presents, as you may know, because many of you have Wi-Fi at home, it presents a much clearer picture. We were trying to work with Concord to get a demonstration of these two things for them. All the companies have agreed to come in to do it, and we're paused to work this out with what Bob said is with you and with the select people. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is Ellen here? Are you here, Ellen? No, I don't think so. Okay, I think we'd like to hear at this point from Eugene and your associates as to what you think about the policy proposal that we sent to you.
so I would say to begin with, you did an amazingly thorough study. And your report was very impressive. You people have really clearly put a lot of time and effort into it. It's not just a, we want this, it's a, here's what there is, and here are some options, and these are the costs, and this is what could happen. I did reach out to the Mass Commission on Deaf and Hard of Hearing to ask them about this, and I sent a copy of your report to the consultant from MCHDD, sorry. And he also commented on what a wonderful, thorough report it is. So his other comments were that sort of the gold standard to provide access to everyone who is deaf or hard of hearing is a CART reporter. That's also probably the singularly most expensive option because you would have to hire someone for every single meeting to come and do the transcription. He said that there are programs that do that, but that they are really not adequate. And so, you know, that was sort of his starting point, that that's really the gold standard that allows everyone. And you know, that was one of my concerns in terms of trying to provide better access for people who are deaf, are late deafened, are hard of hearing, so that we can have something that will work for everyone. So that was his comment. He did think that the loop, the ring, might be a good option for Concord. And he commented that the amount of $5,000 per year to pay for all accessibility changes that need to happen within the town was basically woefully inadequate and would just way not be enough to provide much of anything. So, you know, those were his comments. And I think, so those of you on the commission, I think I shared his email with you. Did I do that? Did I share his email? Mary Beth, you saw it? Okay. And was there anything else in there that you recall that I'm missing? Okay. All right. So so I hear that what you initially would like us to do is to support you in reaching out to the select board to develop a policy around hearing access for people who are deaf, hard of hearing, late deafened, whatever the case may be. And is that correct? That's what you're looking for initially, or a first step anyway?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let me open this up to those of you on the commission. What is your feeling about that?
I think we should do everything we can to support this, this group. I think, like you, they've done a fabulous job, incredible research. I don't know what more they can do. One thing I'd like to add to it that might help with their argument is that I happen to know from family involvement here that when the town took over the CCTV license, the public access license, some of their justification for taking over that license and their budget was that it was going to be directed to things just like this, to making the town meetings accessible to people with hearing loss. And I'm sure that's part of the public record in their minutes and things from that meeting. And I don't think that's ever been honored. So it is just sort of more reason to hold their fist to the fire, whatever the expression is, foot to the fire to make good on these. It sounds like they've been kind of listening to you, but there's no action. They keep kind of throwing it back at.
Mhm.
So anything we can do to help move this along, let's do it.
Okay, others have comments?
Yeah, I agree with Mary Beth that we need to support you in general, and also if you come up with action items, whatever those might be, applying for a grant or trying to change policy or change legislation, we should be supportive to you in that and a reference if needed. But it sounds like you all do an excellent job of researching, so I applaud you on that.
Okay, Meryl, Karen, either of you have comments?
I don't have anything to add, but I definitely add my full support to your efforts. I think what you've done is mind-boggling, honestly. And hopefully we can move this ahead somehow. It just, yes, it's interesting that you have not been able to get farther with this. So I hope we can assist with that.
Meanwhile, a number of states said that their allotments of Pfizer's already approved vaccine.
Diane Reynolds, can you please mute yourself? We're hearing your TV or something in the background.
Instructions on where to ship.
I apologize. I thought I was muted.
Yeah,
Today, several staffers there were exposed to the Secretary of the
we're still hearing it.
So sorry.
tour of the monument.
Let me get out.
Department spokesman said that the site will reopen on Monday.
Oh, well, yeah, I didn't necessarily mean for her to need to leave, just to mute herself. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that the commission, I guess would it be in the form of write a letter to the town?
Or maybe a company or some members accompany this group to meet with the
Okay.
select board?
Okay, well, let me reframe that then. I'd like to make a motion that some members of the Commission on Disability accompany the members of this group to lend support to their efforts to get the town to adopt change policy and implement the recommendations that they've made to make town meetings more accessible for people with hearing loss. Does that cover it?
I think that covers it quite thoroughly.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. So Karen, do you want to call roll again? And I see Jane Hotchkiss has joined us, so she is a voting member. You can call on her as well. You're muted, Karen. I like Zoom meetings, but I'd be fine with the day we don't have to say, unmute yourself, mute yourself.
No.
Okay. Jean, are you in favor of this motion?
Yes.
All right. Meryl,
Meryl, are you with us still?
Yes,
okay. Jane,
absolutely. And I would be happy to work with the commission on, ways to present this.
Great.
Bonnie,
Yes.
yes, and Mary Beth,
Yes.
yes. Thank you.
Okay,
Jean, could I make a comment?
certainly.
The narrative she just mentioned said that the change policies to implement in town meetings. I would certainly not want this to be interpreted as only for the town meeting per se.
Good
but it has
catch.
to do with all public meetings in public venues.
Okay, yeah, I thought I heard that as plural.
Yeah, I thought it was meetings, plural.
Yeah.
Well, that could be year to year as well.
I think I did say meetings, but I think that's a good point. I think it would be best expressed if we said all public meetings, not town.
Yeah.
Town meetings could be misconstrued, so.
Okay,
If I could add to that, there might
can
be
you
some
identify
urgency.
yourself, please?
I'm sorry, this is Jane Hotchkiss.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jane, your name went away.
I'm sorry, I'm transferring from car to inside, so
Oh,
it's I'm not that technologically perfect on the Zoom in car versus phone
oh,
in car versus other things.
yeah,
But my point is, given that the townhouse is under renovations right now, if any of this equipment would benefit from, I don't know whether the opportunity is there. I know that we've tried many ways to accommodate that at the in the select board room, accommodate what was then the technology. But I wouldn't want to wait too long.
okay. So Bob Andrews, if you want to reach out to Linda Escobedo and ask her if your concern can be put on the agenda of one of their meetings very soon.
Okay, I actually did request of Linda that that we put on as we get put on as soon as possible, but I you know, she recommended that we touch base with you first.
Okay,
I don't know what the estimate might be as to, you know, how much time lapse needs to be observed here.
all right, I can reach out to Linda and let her know that you came and that we passed a motion to support your efforts and see if we can be put on the agenda. And Jane, I'll CC you on that. So
That would be great, and I'll follow it up.
okay, sounds good. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Bonnie.
I have a comment to this group that's maybe appropriate, maybe not quite on the mark, but when I read through, I didn't feel the strength of what your recommendations were. I mean, I felt what you thought would be the right thing, but I didn't really feel what your policy action items were. So I would recommend maybe being more focused with some proposals, or maybe you're doing that in the background and trying to just be as broad as possible with this group. But that wasn't clear to me. Do you want a warrant? Do you want a grant? Do you want something written in the bylaws of someplace? So maybe be more clear about that. Sense?
Good point.
I'm not sure I understood what you said. Could you just rephrase it a little bit or repeat it?
Yeah, you know, things don't happen kind of without a strong recommendation for a policy, a specific policy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering what the specific goal is, policy-wise, that you're looking for. I see a lot of great research that you've done, and I see what you want the town to do, but what's the mechanism for doing it?
Right. Well, I'm not sure that we can spell out the entire. We did spell out a lot in our our report, our longer report to the town. I think at this point, we're asking for a policy that is an affirmation, by the select board as the policy group for the town. That the town is committed to full compliance with the relevant sections of the ADA law, and that with a little additional material about hearing systems and devices being of the highest quality being installed in all facilities that are used for public meetings, and for a protocol, for making sure that the equipment, once installed, will be easily accessed by people who come to the meetings.
Yeah, so I guess, I would just continue to suggest that you focus it and say, and identify funding sources and actually where you want that policy to be written in, to just be more precise in some options. Being open is great if you want to, get everyone's input and kind of work something together, but I'm going to leave it there. If you want to talk, I'm also doing a PhD in public policy, so it's kind of on my mind all the time. So,
yeah.
What is the lever? How do you get in? How do you get what you want done?
I don't know if I'm correct, but I think the town has some obligation to fund it.
That's true. Ed, go ahead.
Bob, is this a time to make reference to that which was drawn up and sent on the exact provisions that we recommend for the policy? It was the second part of the memo sent to the commission on the hearing impaired advocacy group. And it starts with, in addition to providing systems, the policy would commit. And then we list 5 things as what we thought was the basis of actually writing the policy. But we didn't want to presume that that would be something that the commission would think, yeah, that's valid. And so we presented it for your feedback on those particular points. And then if we could work with someone on the commission to see how we bring this all to the select people. Does that make sense, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bonnie, can I put you on the spot and ask, would you be willing to work with this group around trying to craft a policy? I mean, my experience in working with the select board on the public-private partnership study committee was they looked to us to make a recommendation to say, this is what we think you should do. This is the policy we think you should adopt. And then the select board takes it from there and decides. I don't think this is something that needs to go to a warrant.
I was wondering that.
Yeah, I think the select board can adopt a policy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
I'd be happy
that
to.
policy becomes a working document for the town management staff.
Sure.
And it does seem as though the responsibility for coming up with funding, although we might make suggestions, rests with the town. There, I recall that when Kate Hanley was hired as a sustainability director, part of what they adopted some policies about sustainability. That the town explored, grants that were available, from the state level. There often are grants that are applicable. Somebody, maybe Kate Hodges, since she's the ADA coordinator, would presumably explore those avenues.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very true. And I think that if we, to Bonnie's point, I think the clearer the goals are, the more easily translatable from a policy document to a grant application this will be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'm happy to work with the group if they want me to, and to use the resources of all that I can find, to kind of pull together. But have you found a policy in another town that the wording that works you would recommend to our town? Because if it's already written, that makes it easier for them. If it's already working in Newton or someplace else, that could be a step forward as well. So
well, we could find that
late in our meeting, so I'm happy to talk offline within the limits of what I can. I'll talk to Jean about that.
Sure. Let me jump in and just say, I think there might be a couple of resources that we could ask about that. I think we can go to MOD and see if they know of something or have some kind of sample policy. And we also I can reach back out to MCDHH and see what they might have available.
I think the town of Watertown has also a pretty strong background and policy on this. I remember at one point looking into it, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, and talking to different towns, Newton, Watertown, and it seemed like Watertown had the best. So I'll look in my notes and see if I can find a contact person there, and I'll
Great.
share it with you. Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Great. And I'm thinking too, Wareham has a pretty significant population of people who are deaf and hard of hearing, and as does Martha's Vineyard. In fact, historically, Martha's Vineyard had many people who were deaf. The community was sort of culturally deaf in a lot of ways. So they may have some resources as well. So I'd be happy to check into that. So it looks like we've got some action items to work on, and we'll take it from there. And hopefully before our next meeting, we'll have moved this a long ways. And I
Could
think
we,
to Jane's point, we want to try to work with judicious speed on it, so that if there's something that needs to happen, it can happen now while renovations are being completed.
Jane, are the is the individual contact information for members of the commission available? I mean, I had Bonnie, for example, but we might want to communicate with Bonnie and invite her to meet with us.
Sure. So let me ask those of you who are on the call, can I share your email contact with Bob?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Karen, you okay with it? Okay. All right.
I'm easy. I'm Jane Hotchkiss at concordma.gov. So,
Okay. All right. So I'll share that with you. Any other?
Actually, I think I got it already.
Okay.
It seems like it's all those email contacts are all on your invitation.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So you should be able to reach out to any of us.
Right.
Okay. Any last things? We kind of went way over again tonight. I'm sorry. So for next month, we'll try to get Kate here to talk about White Pond. We'll hopefully have some steps that we've taken in terms of moving things ahead for the hearing access. And we'll see whatever else comes along between now and then. And we'll also be sending a letter to the town of Waltham and the Lions Club, expressing our deep disappointment, I guess I would say, or however Mary Beth wants to put it, in the issue of holding a light show on the grounds of a former state school. And I will say everything you've heard about Fernald in terms of the horrendous treatment of people is true and more. Some of our folks grew up at Fernald, and the things they share are just unbelievable.
It's
So
very hard to bear witness to some of their stories and not be outraged by this.
right,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I wish you all, if you celebrated Hanukkah, I hope you had a nice Hanukkah. And if you celebrate solstice or Christmas or Kwanzaa, New Year's, I wish you a wonderful holiday. Our next meeting would be January 14th. So Thursday, January 14th at 5 p.m. I will see you all then. And if anybody needs any input or whatever on any of these action items between now and then, just let me know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
for
night.
having us.
Night.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.